The storm hit Brooklyn Heights like a living thing, rain hammering the windshield of Michael Chen's black Tesla as he crawled through streets that seemed to shift in the darkness. At 32, Michael was Technova's youngest CEO, having built the AI company from a garage startup into a billion-dollar empire. But tonight, none of his achievements mattered. Tonight, he was just a grandson racing to reach his grandmother's 85th birthday before midnight. His GPS had been glitching for hours, rerouting him through neighborhoods he'd never seen. He should have left his Manhattan office earlier, but a critical system failure had kept him chained to his desk until nearly midnight. Now, at 11:47 p.m., he was fighting both the clock and the worst storm New York had seen in months. Michael squinted through the rain-soaked windshield, searching for house number 247. The brownstones all looked identical in the darkness: red brick facades, black iron railings, small front gardens weathered by time. His grandmother Rose had moved here 6 months ago, but Michael had never visited. There had always been another meeting, another crisis, another excuse. He spotted 247 carved into stone above a dark green door. Without hesitation, he parked and grabbed the gift bag, an expensive silk scarf his assistant had selected. He ran through the downpour, his Italian leather shoes splashing through puddles that reflected the streetlights. The porch light was out. Michael fumbled with his phone's flashlight, confirming the address. The brass doorknob turned easily in his hand. Grandma Rose always was too trusting, he thought, pushing inside quietly. The house felt wrong immediately. It smelled of lavender and old books instead of his grandmother's vanilla and jasmine tea. The living room was furnished with a worn leather couch and bookshelves packed with volumes. Too modern, too academic for an 85-year-old's home. Crash! Thunder made him jump, and his elbow knocked over a small table. Glass shattered against the hardwood floor. "Who's there?" A young woman's terrified voice called from upstairs. Michael froze. This definitely wasn't his grandmother. "I have a baseball bat and I'm calling the police," the voice continued, stronger but trembling with fear. "Wait. I think there's been a mistake," Michael called out. Footsteps thundered down the stairs. A young woman appeared, gripping a wooden baseball bat with both hands. She was perhaps 27, with shoulder-length auburn hair and striking green eyes that seemed to look right through him. She wore cotton pajamas and an oversized NYU sweatshirt. "Don't move. I've already called 911. "Please, let me explain," Michael said, raising his hands. "I'm not a thief. I think I'm in the wrong house." "Right, and I'm supposed to believe you just broke into the wrong house at midnight?" Her voice was sharp with intelligence and sarcasm. "I was looking for 247 Remsen Street. My grandmother lives here, and today is her 85th birthday." "This is 247 Remsen Street," she interrupted. "And unless your grandmother is a 27-year-old graduate student, you're lying." Michael's mind raced. He checked his phone again. Definitely the right address. "My name is Michael Chen. I'm looking for my grandmother, Rose Chen. She moved here 6 months ago." The woman's grip on the bat loosened slightly. "Rose Chen? She lives next door at 249. But she moved to assisted living 3 weeks ago. Her nephew cleaned out the house." Michael felt like he'd been punched. His grandmother hadn't told him about the move, and he'd been too busy to call properly. The guilt hit him like a physical weight. I didn't know," he admitted quietly. The woman studied his face in the dim phone light, her head tilted as if listening to something he couldn't hear. After a long moment, she slowly lowered the baseball bat. "You really thought this was your grandmother's house?" "The door was unlocked," Michael said weakly. "I forgot to lock it after bringing groceries. The storm messed with my routine." She paused, noting how he wasn't making direct eye contact. "I'm Emma Rodriguez. And you're clearly not a burglar. Thieves don't usually announce themselves." Lightning illuminated Emma's face, and Michael realized she was beautiful in an understated way. More importantly, he noticed she wasn't looking directly at him either. "Are you blind?" "Yes." "Car accident 5 years ago." Her matter-of-fact tone made his chest tighten. "I'm so sorry. I should go. In this storm, you'll get killed." The lights flickered and died completely. "Looks like you're staying whether you like it or not." Emma moved through the darkness with practiced ease, lighting candles around the living room. Michael stood awkwardly, his world of corporate solutions useless against nature's power. "I have a pull-out couch," Emma said, settling into an armchair. "It's been a while since I've had someone to talk to who isn't asking if I need help crossing the street." "Does that happen often?" "People see the white cane and assume I'm helpless. I have a PhD in English literature from Columbia and teach creative writing at Brooklyn Community College. But sure, I definitely need help with crosswalks." Michael found himself genuinely laughing for the first time in months. In the candlelit quiet, he couldn't remember experiencing such peace. No notifications, no urgent messages demanding attention. "Can I ask you something?" Emma said. "What's it like building something from nothing? Creating a company that affects millions of lives?" Most people asked about money or power. No one had ever asked what it felt like. "Terrifying," he admitted. "Every decision affects hundreds of people's livelihoods. Every mistake gets magnified. Sometimes I wonder if the person I was when I started would recognize who I've become." "Do you like who you've become?" The question hung between them, more profound than he'd expected. "I used to think success meant being indispensable. Being so important that everyone needed me, that I couldn't take a day off. But sitting here, I can't remember my last conversation that wasn't about quarterly projections." "That sounds lonely." The simple observation hit like a revelation. Despite being surrounded by people, he'd been profoundly alone for years. "What about you?" he deflected. "What's it like navigating the world without sight?" "I see more now than before the accident. When you can't rely on your eyes, you pay attention to everything else. How someone's voice changes when they lie, the way emotions have actual sense." "What do I smell like?" Emma's first genuine smile appeared. Expensive cologne, expensive suit, stress. But also loneliness. And maybe hope, though I'm not sure why. Her accuracy was unsettling. He did feel hopeful, though he couldn't explain why. "I was engaged," Emma said suddenly. "David and I were driving home from looking at wedding venues. A drunk driver hit us. David died instantly. I spent 3 months in the hospital and came out blind." Michael's chest tightened. "Emma, I'm so sorry." The first year was hardest, not just learning to navigate without sight, but the guilt. Why did I survive when he didn't? Eventually, I realized I could spend my life mourning what I'd lost, or build something new with what I had left. "My parents died when I was 16, Michael found himself saying. "Car accident too. After that, it was just me and Grandma Rose. I threw myself into work because achieving felt safer than loving people." "Because people leave," Emma said softly. "Exactly." They sat in understanding silence, two people who'd built walls around their hearts for different reasons. Emma broke the quiet first. "Your grandmother used to worry about you, you know. She'd say you worked so hard building your future that you forgot to live your present. That you'd become so good at predicting what people need that you stopped asking what they want." The observation was so insightful it took his breath away. His grandmother had summarized in one sentence what expensive consultants had spent thousands trying to help him understand. "She's right," he said quietly. "Grandmothers usually are. They have PhDs in human nature." As the storm raged outside, Michael realized this was the first real conversation he'd had in years. Emma's directness, her lack of pretense, made him remember parts of himself he'd forgotten existed. "What do you want, Michael?" she asked suddenly. The question should have been simple, but he realized he hadn't asked himself that in years. "I want to visit my grandmother tomorrow. Apologize for missing her birthday, for not knowing she moved. I want to." He paused, looking at Emma. "I want to see you again." Michael woke to sunlight and the smell of coffee. Emma moved around the kitchen with fluid efficiency, dressed in jeans and a sweater that made her auburn hair shine. "Good morning," she called. "Hope you don't mind I started coffee." "Sounds perfect." Michael accepted the mug gratefully. His phone erupted with buzzes, 17 missed calls, 43 emails, 12 urgent texts. For the first time in years, the corporate emergencies felt distant. "The outside world's looking for you," Emma observed with a smile. "Probably. But for the first time in years, I don't want to check. I don't want to be pulled back into that constant crisis management. Emma tilted her head thoughtfully. Your grandmother used to say you worked so hard building your future that you forgot to live your present. What do you want, Michael? She asked directly. I want to visit my grandmother. Apologize for being the kind of grandson too busy building an empire to stay connected. And I want to see you again. Emma's coffee mug stopped halfway to her lips. See me again? Perfect choice of words, actually. Most people tiptoe around that word like blindness is contagious. She set down her mug. But why? You barely know me. Because last night was the first genuine conversation I've had in years. You see things I've forgotten existed. When I'm with you, I remember who I used to be before I became obsessed with proving my worth. I stopped dating after the accident, Emma admitted. Seemed unfair to ask someone to take on all the complications. You're not asking me to take on anything. You're more whole than anyone I know. How can you say that? You've known me 12 hours. I know you took in a stranger during a storm. I know you teach people to find their voices. I know you've turned tragedy into strength. In one night, you helped me see things I've been blind to for years. Emma laughed. Are we doing blindness puns now? Too soon. About 5 years too late. Her smile was radiant. There's a little Italian place 3 blocks away, Luigi's. They know me there. Are you saying yes to dinner? I'm saying yes to seeing where this goes. Michael felt lighter than he had in years. I should visit my grandmother first. She'd love that. She talks about you constantly, proud but worried. She says you've forgotten how to be happy. She's right. But you seemed happy last night. Different than I expected. I was happy. I am happy. He paused. Would you let me take you to dinner somewhere you're comfortable? Luigi's it is. 7 o'clock. Perfect. As Michael prepared to leave, Emma walked him to the door, the same door he'd stumbled through as a stranger 12 hours earlier. Michael, she called as he reached the sidewalk. Yeah. Your grandmother was right about working too hard. But she was wrong about one thing. You haven't forgotten how to be happy. You just needed someone to remind you what it looks like. That evening at Luigi's, as Emma laughed at his stories about corporate mishaps, Michael realized the best things happened when you stopped trying to predict the future and started paying attention to the present. Penny for your thoughts, Emma said. Just thinking about prediction algorithms. My company spends millions trying to anticipate human behavior, but the best thing that ever happened to me was completely random. Was it random though? Emma asked. You needed to remember who you were beneath the CEO persona. I needed to remember that letting people in doesn't always end in loss. Maybe we found each other exactly when we were supposed to. Michael reached across the table and gently took her hand. Maybe we did. Outside, Brooklyn Heights bustled with evening life, but inside the restaurant, 2 people who had spent years building walls around their hearts began the careful work of letting them down. Later that night, Rose Chen smiled at her grandson's text, had dinner with Emma Rodriguez. Thank you for teaching me that the best gifts are the ones we don't plan for. Love you, Grandma. See you tomorrow. Some love stories begin with grand gestures. Others begin with wrong turns that lead exactly where you need to be.